All right, get ready for this one, because today we're going to take a deep dive into Trinitite.
Trinitite.
Yeah, have you ever heard of it?
I can't say that I have.
Well, it's pretty wild. It's this glassy substance.
Brassy.
Yeah, and it was created by the heat of an atomic bomb, like literally born from the first atomic bomb test.
Wow. Okay, now I'm intrigued.
We're going to be using an episode from Cocktail Party Chemistry as our main source today. Episode 75, actually. And it's packed with some pretty fascinating facts about Trinitite.
Sounds like a good one. So where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, Cocktail Party Chemistry really breaks down the science of it. They explain how Trinitite is basically glass, but it was formed, like, instantaneously by that atomic explosion.
I can't even imagine the kind of heat that would take.
Oh, it was intense. They said temperatures during the Trinity test reached over 1,500 degrees Celsius.
1,500 degrees. That's hotter than most volcanoes.
Oh, right. It's mind-boggling. And that extreme heat is what melted the desert sand at the test site, basically fused it into this, like, unusual glass.
Yeah. So it's like melted sand, but with a bit of a radioactive history.
Yeah. And speaking of radioactive, it's kind of unnerving, right, that Trinitite was initially highly radioactive. Makes you wonder how something born from such a destructive event could ever be considered safe.
Or let alone something people would want to collect.
Exactly.
Well, there's this process called radioactive decay.
Right.
And it basically means that over time, those unstable atoms in the trinitite, they transform into more stable forms, emitting energy as they do. So what was once super hazardous slowly becomes less so over time.
So it's like it's neutralizing itself.
In a way, yes.
But how long does that process even take?
It really depends on the specific radioactive isotopes present in each piece of trinitite. Some decay quickly, while others can linger for thousands, even millions of years.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So is all Trinitite still radioactive then?
Well, according to Cocktail Party Chemistry, some trinitite samples are actually legal to own now.
Oh, wow. Really? That seems a little strange to me, I gotta say. I mean, it's a product of an atomic bomb.
It does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But the legality is kind of, nuanced. It depends on the sample's radioactivity levels, like how much decay has happened and also where it was collected.
Ah, so is the Trinity site, like, off limits?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a restricted area.
Yep.
But there were samples taken from surrounding areas, and those over time have decayed enough to be considered safe for, private ownership.
So some people out there have a little piece of an atomic bomb in their, like, collection. That's wild. But what makes someone want to collect that? I mean, is it just scientific curiosity? Or is there something more to it?
It's a good question. I think for some, the historical significance must be a huge draw. Like owning a piece of a world-altering event.
Yeah, I can see that.
But for others, it could be purely the scientific intrigue, a chance to, like, study a substance created under such extreme conditions.
Yeah, that's true. It's a complex issue for sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding really interesting is that Trinitite represents this, like, duality. It's a product of destruction, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a source of, like, scientific fascination.
It's almost like this reminder of the double-edged sword of human ingenuity.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you think, what does Trinitite's existence actually tell us about ourselves and our relationship with science and the world around us even? It's a pretty deep question.
Definitely something to ponder. Yeah, it's a big question. And it makes me think back to some of the other deep dives we've done. Like, we've seen how scientific breakthroughs, they can be revolutionary and controversial all at the same time.
Right, like that episode we did on CRISPR gene drives.
Exactly. That was a wild one. The whole concept of rewriting genetic inheritance is incredible. Like, on the one hand, you have this amazing potential, but then on the other, it raises all these ethical concerns, about our right to manipulate life at that level.
Yeah, it definitely makes you stop and think.
And I think Trinitite, in its own way, sort of embodies that same tension. It came from this technology that has the power to, like, end life as we know it.
Right.
But it also sparked this wave of scientific discovery. It really pushed the boundaries of our understanding of physics and chemistry, even the very nature of matter, really.
It makes you wonder, though, like, if Trinitite hadn't happened, would our understanding of nuclear science be as advanced as it is today? Would we have even explored the peaceful applications of atomic energy as much?
That's a tough one. It's like a hypothetical we can only ponder, really. But I think the point is scientific progress, it rarely follows a straight line. It comes from unexpected places, even destructive ones sometimes.
Yeah, good point. And speaking of unexpected, cocktail party chemistry mentioned that Trinitite has actually become a collector's item.
Yeah.
Like people are buying and selling pieces of this radioactive glass.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? But it shows how fascinated we are with, the unusual, the rare, things with historical significance.
Yeah, I can see that. Like having this tangible connection to a moment that changed the world forever.
Exactly.
But wouldn't it also be, like, unsettling
Right.
to have a piece of Trinitite and be constantly reminded of the destructive potential of these weapons?
That's a valid point, and it just goes to show how complex those emotions are around Trinitite. For some, it might be that sobering reminder,
Yeah.
but for others, it might be the symbol of, well, human ingenuity. Even if it led to something so destructive, it's a tough one.
It's like looking at a poisonous flower, right?
Uh,
It can be beautiful, but, there's danger there.
That's a great analogy, and it really highlights how important it is to approach these scientific discoveries with responsibility, to always weigh the potential benefits against those inherent risks.
So I guess the question then becomes, what can we actually learn from Trinitite? Beyond the science, beyond the history, what does it tell us about, our role in shaping the future scientific progress?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like Trinitite is this potent reminder. Our advancements, no matter how groundbreaking, they have to be guided by ethical considerations. And we have to really understand the consequences of our actions, like deep understanding.
Yeah, for sure. Knowledge without responsibility, that's a dangerous combination.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Man, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface here.
I know, right?
Cuts it up.
Trinitite, it's a substance that keeps on giving.
It is pretty amazing to think about, you know, how something as basic as melted sand can have this much significance.
Well, that's the thing about science and history. They're intertwined. And like a single event, that flash of heat and energy, it can change everything,
Yeah.
impact how we understand the universe, even our place in it.
It does make you think. Kind of reminds me when we talked about toxins, actually.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, we talked about how some substances, stuff that used to be feared, are now like tools in neuroscience research. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's true. It's amazing how our perception of things can change. Like something that's destructive can become a source of knowledge, even healing.
Yeah. And it all comes back to that question you asked earlier about what Trinitite says about us. I think it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It asks us to think about the consequences of like all our scientific pursuits.
Absolutely. We have to consider the ethics, weigh the good against the bad.
Because knowledge without responsibility, that's a dangerous thing.
No doubt about it.
But maybe Trinitite also reminds us of something else. That even when there's destruction, there's still potential. Potential for learning, for discovery.
Like even from the ashes, new understanding can emerge.
Well said. This deep dive into Trinitite has definitely given us a lot to think about.
And there's so much more out there to explore. Countless substances, all with their own stories.
And we'll be right here with you, diving into them.
One deep dive at a time.
So until next time, stay curious, keep asking those questions. And hey, if you ever get the chance to hold a piece of Trinitite, really take a moment with it. Think about its story. You might be surprised at what you discover.